There's a memory in my head that doesn't belong to me. I know I never lived it. But I can feel every detail as if it's happening right now. The smell of wet wood. The sound of footsteps approaching. The sensation of absolute terror running down my spine. And the worst part is that this memory isn't just mine. Thousands of people around the world are living memories that never happened to them. And science has finally discovered why. What you're about to discover will make you question every childhood memory, every certainty you have about your own past. Because maybe you too carry memories of a life that was never yours. Imagine waking up one day and perfectly remembering something that never happened. It's not a confused dream or a passing fantasy. It's a solid, crystal clear memory, as real as your first day of school or the taste of your grandmother's birthday cake. You can see the faces, hear the voices, feel the emotions of that moment. But when you try to share this memory with someone who should have been there, that person looks at you strangely. Because it never happened. At least not to you. This has a name. It's called false memory. And it's not as rare as you think. In fact, it probably happens to you every week without you realizing it. I'm going to tell you a true story that will make your blood run cold. In 2010, a woman named Julia Shaw, a criminal psychologist at the University of London, conducted an experiment that changed everything we knew about human memory. She took completely normal college students with no history of mental problems, and in just 3 therapy sessions managed to implant in them complete memories of crimes they never committed. These students came to perfectly remember having assaulted someone with a weapon. They could describe the victim, the location, the sensation of the weapon in their hand, the fear after the act. 70% of participants developed these false memories. 70%. And the most terrifying part is that they firmly believed it had happened. They cried when remembering. They felt genuine guilt. Their minds had created an alternative reality so convincing it became indistinguishable from truth. But how is this possible? How can our mind betray us in such a profound and definitive way? The answer lies in how the human brain stores information. Unlike a computer that records data precisely and immutably, our brain reconstructs memories each time we access them. It's as if each memory is a story you tell again, and each time you tell it, small details change. A face becomes clearer. An emotion intensifies. A detail that didn't exist before suddenly appears. Our hippocampus, the brain region responsible for memory, doesn't distinguish very well between something that actually happened and something we vividly imagined or was suggested to us with enough force. For the brain, intensely imagining something can have the same neurological weight as having lived it. Now think with me. How many times have your parents or grandparents told you stories about your childhood? That time you fell from the swing. The day you learned to walk. Your 3rd birthday party. You probably have clear images of these moments in your head. But here's the disturbing truth. Most people can't form autobiographical memories before 3 or 4 years of age. This means that vivid memory you have of your 2nd birthday probably isn't yours. It's a memory constructed from photos you've seen, stories you've heard, videos you've watched. Your brain took these external fragments and stitched them into a coherent narrative that you now call a memory. And the difference between this fabricated memory and a real memory? For you, there is none. The first problem arises when these false memories begin to affect real decisions. In 1990, a case shook the United States. Dozens of people were arrested accused of satanic ritual abuse in daycare centers. The accusations came from small children who, during therapy sessions, began to remember terrible abuse. Sacrifices, secret rituals, extreme violence. The testimonies were detailed, emotional, convincing. Lives were destroyed. Innocent people spent years in prison. Families were separated forever. Only years later was the devastating truth discovered. The memories had been implanted by the therapists themselves through suggestive interrogation techniques. The children weren't lying. They truly believed it had happened. But none of it was real. The repetitive questions, the subtle suggestions, the pressure for specific answers had created entire memories from nothing. And the damage caused was irreversible. But there's something even more disturbing than individual false memories. There are collective false memories. Have you heard of the Mandela Effect? The name comes from a strange phenomenon. Thousands of people around the world swore that Nelson Mandela had died in prison in the 80s. They could remember newscasts, the televised funeral, worldwide reactions. But Mandela didn't die in prison. He was released in 1990, became president of South Africa and died in 2013. So how do so many people share the same false memory? The answer lies in how information spreads and mixes in our culture. An error here, a confusion there, a mistaken association, and suddenly millions of people are remembering something that never existed. Some people swear that Looney Tunes had a character named Sinbad in a movie about a genie in the 90s. Such a film never existed. Others clearly remember the phrase, "Luke, I am your father," in Star Wars. The real phrase is, "No, I am your father." These are small examples. But imagine the implications. The second problem is when these false memories become weapons. In police interrogations, suggestive techniques can create false confessions. Innocent people admit to crimes they didn't commit because, after hours of psychological pressure and repeated suggestions, they begin to doubt their own memories. The tired, stressed brain bombarded with alternative scenarios begins to fill in gaps. And suddenly you're confessing something you never did because your own mind convinced you that maybe you did. The numbers are terrifying. Studies show that about 25% of people who were exonerated by DNA evidence after wrongful convictions had confessed to crimes they didn't commit. 1/4. And many of these confessions came accompanied by detailed false memories of the crime. Now we reach the climax of this story. The most recent and most disturbing discovery about false memories. In 2020, neuroscientists at MIT managed for the first time to implant a specific false memory in a human brain using only light. They used a technique called optogenetics, where specific neurons are modified to respond to light. The researchers identified exactly which neurons in the hippocampus were associated with a specific memory. Then, while the subject was in a safe environment, they artificially activated the neurons associated with a memory of danger. The result? The brain created a false memory that this safe environment was dangerous. The person came to fear a place where nothing bad had happened because neurons were manipulated to create a narrative that didn't exist. This means memories can be edited. They can be created. They can be erased. Think about the implications of this discovery. Imagine a future where traumas can be erased with surgical precision. Sounds wonderful, doesn't it? Violence victims could have their painful memories removed. Soldiers with post-traumatic stress disorder could finally find peace. But the same power that can heal can also control. If memories can be erased, they can also be inserted. Witnesses could have their recollections altered. Victims could be convinced they were never victimized. Your entire identity, everything you believe about who you are, is based on your memories. What if these memories aren't as reliable as you think? What if they've already been altered without you noticing? Here's the message you need to understand. Your memory isn't a faithful camera recording every moment of your life. It's a creative narrator, constantly rewriting your personal history based on current emotions, external suggestions, and psychological needs. Each time you remember something, you're recreating that memory, not reproducing it. And each recreation adds small distortions. Imagine a Xerox of a Xerox of a Xerox. With each copy, the image becomes less faithful to the original. Your memories work like this. The memory you have today of something that happened 10 years ago isn't the same memory you had 5 years ago. And it's definitely not what really happened. You're living in a reality constructed by the narrative your brain chose to tell about your past. So how can you identify a false memory? There are some signs. Genuinely traumatic memories are rarely perfectly clear and cinematic. They tend to be fragmented, full of holes, emotionally intense but visually confusing. If a childhood memory seems too detailed, too perfect, like a movie scene, there's a good chance it's at least partially constructed. False memories also tend to grow and gain details over time, while real memories generally lose sharpness. If you find your story becoming more elaborate each time you tell it, be suspicious. Another clue is perspective. If you can see yourself in the memory, as if you were watching from outside, this indicates construction. Genuine memories are lived in first person, through your own eyes, not as if you were an external observer. But here's the cliffhanger that will keep you thinking for days. If so many of our memories are false or distorted, if our identity is built on a foundation of sand, then who are we really? Are we just the stories we tell ourselves? And if these stories change, do we change with them? Is there a true you underneath all these layers of rewritten narratives? Or are we just fluid collections of mutating memories, constantly reinventing ourselves without realizing? Think about the last argument you had with someone about something that happened. You probably remembered the event in different ways. Who was right? Maybe neither of you. Maybe both were remembering edited and altered versions of reality. Two people, two memories, two different pasts of the same event. The final reflection is this. We live in an era where technology is advancing faster than our ethical understanding of how to use it. We already have the ability to manipulate memories in the laboratory. Soon, this capability will be commercially available. Clinics already promise memory erasure therapies to treat addictions and traumas. But who will regulate this? Who decides which memories deserve to be kept and which should be erased? And most importantly, if your memories can be altered without your knowledge or consent, do you still have free will? Or are you just a character in a story written by forces you don't control? The memory I never lived but can't forget taught me something fundamental. Don't blindly trust your memories. Question your certainties. And understand that the line between reality and fiction within your own mind is much thinner than you imagine. Every memory you have is real to you. But that doesn't mean it's true. And that difference changes everything.